legend in Babito Garcia. And I've got a take on the new old Commanders uniforms because, of course, it's time for Watch D.A. Live. All right, happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome inside Watch D.A. Live, your live YouTube wrap-up bow on a wonderful summer weekend. So glad you're with us. Like I said, hip-hop, hoops, legend, both of those. Babito Garcia is going to join us coming up on the show. The best of, if you missed that Q&D earlier in the week, I've got a snippet for you from that conversation, which I absolutely loved. Also, your Little Mo laugh of the day. We'll tell you more about merch here on the DA Show and Watch DA Live. And we have your Sports Zen. I want to welcome you all in. And if you're in the live chat right now on YouTube, you will see a lot of green, which means those are members, which means those are members of the Jedi Council, which means they have done their part. You can too. If you're not a member, which means exclusive content, exclusive videos each and every week, exclusive question, answer, ask me anything, live chat once a month. We just did this on Monday. And you get personalized emojis, you get personalized badges, and so much more. Become a member by joining. Click on that button above me that says join, or you will see the link in this description of this video or any other videos on the channel or of the channel itself. And for a price of less than a chicken sandwich, just once a month, you can too become a member of the Jedi Council. It is time for your Furious Five. And that actually is a good thing for Major League Baseball. Jacob Misiorowski is a rookie. He only has a handful of starts this season for the Brewers, but he's been absolutely untouchable in many ways and has been a complete kind of household name, phenom type thing happening in Milwaukee, which is Algonquin for the good land, I believe. And Misiorowski, a.k.a. The Miz, is firing triple-digit fastballs. I mean, most of his throws are hitting triple digits, so people are just in awe of him right now. And Major League Baseball named him as one of the National League All-Stars. Well, this did not make the Philadelphia Phillies happy, maybe other teams as well, but the Phillies had a couple of guys specifically in their bullpen they thought were more deserving than Misiorowski, and they said that basically the All-Star Game is becoming the Savannah Bananas. And this is a joke. He's not a veteran. He doesn't have enough service time. He doesn't have enough starts this year, and they're just putting on a show. And so the Phillies decided to bellyache this week about it. From a Philly standpoint, you want to circle the wagons, defend your guys, say we got dudes that belong in the All-Star Game. Maybe they also have All-Star Game bonuses in their contract. You want to see them get rewarded. You want to see them get honored and recognized. Hey, that's being a good teammate. That's fine. I got no problem with that. But let me tell you, Philadelphia Phillies, you don't matter here. You really don't. Because when you dismissively say, what are we now, the Savannah Bananas? Guess what the Savannah Bananas do? Sell out football stadiums night after night after night, not in Savannah, Georgia. And there is a waft, I would say, a whiff of what is happening at times in the WNBA of looking at Caitlin Clark's success or popularity and not recognizing that's good for everybody and sniffling at it, scoffing at it, saying, well, what are we, a sideshow? Well, I would say to those around Major League Baseball, Do you sell out football stadiums night after night? Have you become a cultural touchstone? Do you play on a baseball team that is known not for what players are on the team, but because it's in your social media feed constantly and people are excited about the fun, the excitement, the joy, the memory that is built there? Because if not, you should maybe take a look at what the Savannah Bananas are doing. And for Major League Baseball, does this have a touch of, hey, he's popular, he trends on social, we should get him into the game? Yeah, it does. But I would answer, what's wrong with that? This is a showcase for the sport. This is an exhibition. This does not count for anything. It's no longer about home field advantage in the World Series. It's not about league pride as it was once upon a time when Pete Rose ran over Ray Fosse. It's not about any of that anymore. We know this. We had to come to that conclusion because you guys on the field proved that, because you wanted to play one inning and then be taken out, because the managers made it as though it is no longer really a competition because it no longer has any value to it on the field. So if that's the way it's going to be, and it is just a showcase of the sport, then Jacob Misiorowski, the Miz, does need to be in here because he's clearly one of the best stories of the first half of the season. No? We could go back to Paul Skeens. If Paul Skeens does what he is doing right now, but doesn't have enough starts to qualify for an all-star bid, should he not be invited? Or does he move the needle? Is he what people want to see? I think it's ridiculous. And don't get me wrong, I understand wanting to earn your stripes in the all-star game. This is an important thing for everybody to have on their bio, on their baseball reference page, for their Hall of Fame credentials or whatever. The more all-star games, the better your career looks and the better your post-career prospects are. I understand all that. But let's also get real, baseball and baseball players, and specifically the Philadelphia Phillies griping about this. If Jacob Misiorowski starts against your team and there is a full house and there are millions of people watching on TV because of him, that's good for you. And don't ever forget it. That's good for you. The more eyes that are on your sport at the right time, better for you. Rising tide lifts all boats, right? That's the simple fact of the matter. When my company, Sirius XM, and I do the morning show on Channel 82, Mad Dog Sports Radio, went out and plucked or signed Stephen A. Smith, well, guess what? I understood that the decision was to move the needle. I liked a lot the two hosts that they replaced Stephen A. with, and that was Michelle Beadle and Cody Decker, two friends of mine, and I really liked their show, and they did a really, really good job. But if I'm here as part of a business operation, and my business believes this is what gets more eyes on the channel or more ears on your channel or your place of business, and that should be in the long run good for everybody, I've got to say, yeah, it is. No hard feelings. I get it. And I think the Phillies should understand that. I think baseball players in general should understand that. Baseball lacks the cultural significance of the NFL and in some ways the NBA in some parts of the country as well. Guess what grabs that? Guys like The Miz. So is it going to be by the book the way it used to be? Maybe not. But to scoff at what are we, the Savannah Bananas? If you had attendance, attention, and social media curating like the Savannah Bananas, you'd be a better league. And the Bananas are actually proving what you don't do well. They are filling the void of a country that loves the sport, actually, of baseball, but needs some fun or some juice or some excitement, or can you believe they did this, or social media, selfie, Instagram, TikTok-worthy moments. That's why the Bananas work. They took a sport that we already love, but they put it with turbo boosters and fun behind it. If Major League Baseball players think that they don't want to be the Bananas, well, guess what? You won't be. You'll be looked over and looked past. Next up, on your Furious Five, can we talk about the Washington Commanders? The Commanders unveiled their new old uniforms, which are known as the Super Bowl era Washington football uniforms. And if you need a description because you haven't seen this, they are the uniforms you remember from Doug Williams winning the Super Bowl, or John Riggins winning the Super Bowl, or Mark Rippon winning the Super Bowl, just with the Washington Commanders new helmet. It's the same jersey, same pants, same striping, same piping, same socks, everything, but just the new helmet, which I say, magnifique. Yeah. Yes. Yes. I am the Jack Nicholson gif. Yes. From The Departed. Yes. You're coming with me now back to the 80s and 90s. I've always said this. If teams would just stop being stubborn, if they would just stop paying millions, tens of millions of dollars to marketing firms that need to validate their existence, and just said, okay, we're just going to go back to our uniforms in 1988. 95% of uniforms, team looks, helmets, etc., would immediately become better. That's just the fact of the matter. There's a smattering of teams that did it better today. Like, I think the Seattle Mariners uniforms today are better than they were in 1987. I do. I think the Buffalo Bills uniforms today are actually better than the ones that they used during the Super Bowl era. But I think those are few and far between. And the Commanders are proof positive of this. The Commanders, the uniforms they wore in the playoffs this past season were terrible. The gradient, just stupid. And it was an off type of burgundy. It was more of a reddish burgundy. And what the problem was when they were the old version of the franchise, those uniforms were great. They were great. So all you really had to do was change the emblem on the helmet to a W, and you had great uniforms. They're undoubtedly Joe Theismann, Mark Rippon, RG3, go down the list, whatever generation it was, those Washington uniforms are awesome. They've always been awesome. The fact that they changed them to the Commanders jerseys, that was bad. It was worse. And now they've turned it back, and they should be the primary jerseys. And if you want an alternate jersey, those black uniforms are fine. The black on black with the yellow gold numerals, fine. I'm okay with those. Those actually were not bad. And I'm saying this as a guy that loves throwbacks and retro. They were okay. They're pretty good. But these should be their primary uniforms. And the greatest hoax that is foisted upon the sports industry today is that marketing companies and illustration designers and, these types of apparel industries keep telling these teams, you've got to update, you've got to rebrand, because it sells the boom in jerseys right when you rebrand. Everybody's got to buy a new jersey or a t-shirt or a hat. But it's never better. It's never better. And the hoax is that these marketing companies need not exist. They don't improve anything, but they get fat contracts. And so they have to keep convincing leagues, you've got to rebrand, you've got to refresh, you've got to update. Well, what have we seen in Major League Baseball? The return of powder blues, have we not? Teams across baseball that ditch the powder blues. The Brewers, the Royals, the Phillies, the Cardinals. All these teams had powder blues in the 80s. They ditched them in the 90s and 2000s. And then recently they brought them back. And what's the best-selling jersey they all have? The powder blues. You don't need new marketing companies that you keep forking over money to. Those are a lot of pencil-pushing dweebs. Okay, these are a lot of Gen Zers that actually just need a job. I think you should rebrand. You know what you can do? Gradient. You know what? I can redo this logo. Actually, we don't need you here. We're good. Jerseys used to be better before you got your sticky little grubby fingers on them. We'll just go back to the good stuff like the Commanders did. Nice job. Look, of course I'm going to have a uniform take. What do you think this is? Next up, Hugh Freeze. Not huge, Hugh. The most SEC story of all time has happened this week, where fans and media of the Auburn Tigers are up in arms, worried that Hugh Freeze is playing too much golf. That's right. Hugh Freeze's recruiting rankings have slipped in the last calendar year, and right now they rank in the bottom half of the SEC. Well, this is not going to go without it. A fight in Auburn. And so how do they know how much golf that he's playing? Well, Hugh has been public about how much he enjoys golf. There's been pictures that he's posted on social media about him winning amateur cup, whatever, tournaments, having a good time. But also, in the state of Alabama, you can track his handicap and how many rounds he's playing. And so internet sleuths have done exactly that, put two and two together and said the recruiting is slipping because Hugh is playing too much golf. Now, Hugh has defended his golf and saying it's something I like to do. And I can tell you, if there's a camp, I'm recruiting it. If there's a day, I'm recruiting it. But you know what? Late afternoon, after my day is over, I might go out and golf. This is so syrupy in its goodness of SEC ridiculousness. We are tracking the rounds of golf, which, by the way, Hugh Freeze now ranks in the top third of SEC coaches' golfing rounds this summer. Oh, yeah, that's a scoreboard as well. It is just so rich in SEC that I love it. And when the SEC says it just means more, and people around the country go, oh, God. Ugh. Well, guess what? It does. Because I would ask you, 7:25 Eastern Time, do you know how many rounds of golf your football head coach has played this summer? The answer is probably no. And that's because in the SEC, it does mean more. They're tracking this stuff. Now, does it matter to me? No. Because all that matters is how you do on the football field. And if Hugh Freeze wins 10 games at Auburn and goes to a football playoff, who cares how much golf that he plays? But if he doesn't, well, then we got the good stuff. And this is how you take coaches that were once popular and you run them out of town. You start tracking their golf outings and start running news choppers above them and start news boarding them and chat rooming them and message boarding them. And that's what is going to happen. That is what is happening to Hugh Freeze right now. And so drink it in. It's purely SEC. The pressure is on. You better win 10 games this year, Hugh, or there will be hell to pay and your golf game is the first to go. Awesome. And speaking of college recruiting, let me tell you, as somebody who has loved Syracuse football since before I attended Syracuse. I attended Syracuse in the fall of 97. I graduated in the spring of 2001. I can remember before I got into campus watching games on TV in what then seemed to be this incredibly loud, boisterous, raucous Carrier Dome, and Marvin Graves throwing passes, or Marvin Harrison catching touchdowns, or Qadri Ismail returning kickoff returns for touchdowns. And I remember thinking, God, that looks bonkers. And then I got into campus and realized it is. Because I was there for the final 2 years of Donovan McNabb, 97 and 98, when Syracuse went to the Fiesta Bowl and the Orange Bowl. Been a long time since the Syracuse Orangemen, or now Orange, were in the Orange Bowl. But that was a thing, winning the Big East, going to big-time bowl games, and taking on big-time opponents. Well, Greg Robinson took over in 2005 and lit fire to the program. It was starting to descend under Paul Pasqualoni. It was starting to descend even when I was there. My senior year, fall of 2000, Syracuse did not make a bowl game for the first time in a long time. but it was still 6-6, 6-5. And then Greg Robinson took over, and there was a season they went 0 for the Big East. Come on. They got lapped by Rutgers. USF passed them. UConn football passed them. It was a dark time. And I can't stand that, man, because he ruined my football program. It's taken a long time to get back. It's been 15 years since he left the Hill. Been a long time. There's been brief moments of success. Doug Marrone had a brief run. You had a Texas Bowl under Scott Schaefer. Hey, that qualifies in our land as a pretty good season. And then you had Dino Babers, who had a 10-win season. And you had a few decent quarterbacks in there. Ryan Nassib was in there. You had a couple of good years. But still, not had College Game Day back this century. And in terms of 10-win seasons, which they hit last year, you know, you can count them on 2 fingers in the last 25 years. Well, last week, Fran Brown just nabbed the first 5-star recruit for Syracuse football in a quarter century. And what might end up being the highest ranked recruit ever for Syracuse football, which has had McNabb, Marvin Harrison, Dwight Freeney, before recruiting rankings, of course, there was Jim Brown and Ernie Davis and Art Monk, et cetera. But you're talking about they've had really good football players for a long time, and this would be the highest ranked recruit ever. Fran Brown not only is pulling his weight on the recruiting trail, but Fran Brown's pulling his weight within the community. There's not a person in central New York that is a bad thing to say about this guy. That he has talked the talk, but also walked the walk. And what a difference one man can make. A culture bringer, a culture builder, a culture restorer. It's been an amazing thing to watch. And look, I hope that he's with the Syracuse Orange for a long time, because it's been a long time since I've been able to watch SU football on Saturdays and be really excited about it. But what I am excited about is they got a guy that's pulling in talent. They got a guy that won 10 games last year. They got a guy that went to a significant bowl game. They got a guy that won some big games on national TV. But they also have a guy that behind the scenes is doing the things the right way amongst people that really care, like me, about football being back. So good on Fran Brown. Love to see it. And I hope he's around for a long time. Doing it like this, maybe he won't be. But until he's gone, he's got my vote. This dude is a changer in every single way, shape, and form. He is a change agent, and we needed one badly in Syracuse. If you've been following me on social media for the last 24 hours, you may have seen me starting to fret a little bit about a first pitch. That's because the single-A affiliate of the New York Yankees, the Hudson Valley Renegades, invited me out to the ballpark last night, invited me out to do a first pitch. The way that this thing went down was I interned for them between my junior and senior years in high school. I was an intern for the broadcast that was actually on TV regionally. And I was the assistant on the first baseline for the fan cam. This is the summer of 1996. And the broadcast play-by-play man was Brian Kenny, who is MLB Network's midday host and has done a number of things for a number of years. He was on ESPN for a long time. Brian Kenny's been a great mainstay in broadcasting for a long time. He was the play-by-play voice back when he was working on regional TV in my area of the Hudson Valley. There was a fan cam, and this was season 3 of the Renegades even existing. So energy was high, crazy fans all over the place, big-time crowds. And I was in charge of bringing the crazy fan that promotions brought to me, like, oh, this is a season ticket holder, this guy has this chant, this guy has a funny story, this woman has said knows this person, whatever. This player, she's been here, every night for 2 straight years, whatever that is. Bringing them over to the first base side, setting them up with the headset, the camera person, and then I would step out of the way. I would make sure the cables were done so they didn't trip over them. They weren't coiled. Lighting was correct. And then Brian Kenny on headset would interview that fan down the first base line for fan cam. That was my job, my internship for the summer. Well, yesterday morning we woke up and my wife said, "What do you want to do? It's a great summer day. What do you want to do with AJ?" And AJ just turned 2 in May. I don't know. She goes, "Well, we talked about taking him to his first minor league baseball, his first baseball game. And doing a minor league baseball game is like a soft launch. Maybe tonight?" So, well, look up if the Renegades are in town. They are. What time is the first pitch? 5:05. Perfect. Because his bedtime's between 7 and 8. You can put him down at 8. Great. We'll get 2 hours in there, then come home. Fantastic. So I texted a friend of mine that I met at actually the Bab Bash a couple weeks ago who had told me that he had worked for the Renegades for a couple of seasons. So I was like, great. Texted him. He's like, anytime you need tickets, let me know. So I texted him. I said, hey, I think we're going to be coming to the ballpark. Just want to let you know. If you're down there, we'd love to see you. He goes, yeah, we'll hook you up. And then he's put me in contact with the promotions team and the play-by-play guy. And they said, would you like to throw out the first pitch and maybe do an inning in the booth? They said, if you want to have a low-key night with the family, that's cool. I said, no, I'm good. Let's do it. Yeah, that's great. I've been to the ballpark once or twice since that summer that I interned, but yeah, I would love that. So later in the day, I told my wife, and she's like, that's awesome. Have you practiced? And my heart sunk. And I started to have images of 50 Cent and Carly Rae Jepsen. I was like, oh God, I haven't. Oh God, am I going to embarrass myself? Well, as fate would have it, I worked on my mechanics in the backyard. I didn't actually throw, but I worked on the mechanics. And I thought, I think I could do this. And I got some advice from some of my buddies. Said, you got to throw from the mound. Don't go in front of the mound. So, okay. Get out there. And promotions team tells me, we're all going to be throwing from the front of the mound. Oh, it was me and 4 other kids. Yeah. So it was kid 1, kid 2, DA, kid 3, kid 4. Nice. So I ended up not embarrassing myself. Pretty easy when you're in front of the mound, actually. It's not that far. And it was a strike. Might have been a little high, maybe a little inside, but didn't bounce it, didn't sky it, didn't throw it 50 yards to the side. So I was good with that. And then the third inning came. And they called me into the booth. I was like, awesome. So I put on the headset and called the color, if you will, with the play-by-play man. Really, it was just talking about my career and my internship many years ago and the show now. But I want to play for you video of a home run that was hit last night in the third inning. Bottom of the third, Renegades are at the plate. Watch this home run, and you can grade for yourself how you thought the call went. Flattened out my fandom from a... Wow.
Lewis drives it in the air to deep left field. This one is gone onto the roof.
Oh! That's a roof shot!
Wow.
That's an incredible home run. 325 to left. That shot is 415, something like that.
112 off the bat, 440 the estimated distance.
Wow. Crushed. That was fantastic.
That's Joe Facile on the play-by-play. That's his 4th year, I believe, calling Hudson Valley Renegades games, and he's really, really good. And he's a young guy. He's certainly going to have bigger jobs as his career unfolds. I was very impressed by how he called a game, and he was really very generous and kind with his time and invited me up to the booth and everything like that. So that was really cool to meet Joe. I got so much respect for those minor league play-by-play guys because there is a craft there, and you grind. That is a grind of a job. But yeah, we got to see a roof shot, 440 down the left field line on top of the club seat roof out there, which was awesome. So that was super fun. The video of me throwing the first pitch is on my socials. So you can find that right now on both Twitter and at Instagram. Both are at Damon Amendo. Find me there. like me or subscribe or follow, I guess in those cases, subscribe to this channel and like the videos. You don't have to like me, but like the videos. And that way other people can find them a little easier as well. So there you go. That was the night of the ballpark last night, which was really freaking fun. Really fun. And I've said this a million times over the years on my show, but I love minor league baseball. Probably because my career started there. I interned for both the Hudson Valley Renegades, single A, that was then the Tampa Bay Rays, Devil Rays then, and the Texas Rangers. Now they're the Yankees single A affiliate. I also did a stint one summer for the New Jersey Cardinals, which was a single A of the St. Louis Cardinals. And then I worked very closely alongside the Fort Myers Miracle, high A down in the Gulf Coast League in Florida at my first job, including calling some Miracle games on the radio. And they were the single A of the Minnesota Twins. Class organization. I saw Joe Mauer come through. I think minor league baseball is amazing. I really do. I think it's amazing from how family friendly it is, how kid oriented it is, how fun it is, how affordable it is, how it's just a great night in the summer outside. I love it. I really love it. And I had such a great time last night, and the Renegades made me feel like it was home. And so I appreciate that very much. I got myself some Renegades gear, got AJ a Renegades t-shirt, and away we go. We had a good time. Really, really good time. And I had some good beer, some local beer. I had a good night. Really, really good night. So a little reminder that if you're a member of the Jedi Council for this channel, you get a number of specific exclusive benefits. One of which is the private members only Ask D.A. Anything, which we did last Monday. It was 7/7, July 7th at 7 o'clock Eastern time. And I think a good way to keep track is we'll do that every month on that date. So it's going to be 8/8, August the 8th, if that tracks. Then September the 9th, and then October the 10th. I think that's how we're going to do it, so it stay easy for me to remember. We did more than an hour and a half. It was almost an hour and 40 minutes, and we dove into a lot of stuff. And one of the things we dove into was my exit from CBS. And that was, I thought, important to really have long form explanation on. We talked about my hair and why it's gone the way of this. And that was good. We talked about my philosophy on taking phone calls and my philosophy on doing the job that is the way I do it, hosting a sports radio show, which is not the way that a lot of people do it. We talked about why I'm so passionate about the Oakland A's relocation and why it burns as a fire inside of me, and a lot of other stuff. And it was really, really great. It was really great. And we did it from Studio D.A. here in my basement. And I went upstairs afterwards, and the Bourbon Bell said, how did it go? I said, it was awesome. It was awesome. She goes, it seemed like you needed that too. I said, maybe I did. So for those that are members that were there for Monday and asked questions, jumped on, we did some live chats with listeners that were some of the D-aliens, jumped on in video form as well so we could see them. We have that interface available. It was of huge value, and I appreciated it very much. I really did, and I can't wait to do it again. So if that's something that sounds like you want to watch, you can watch last week's, this month's, July, or you can partake in next month's, August, and going forward. You also get use of all the custom emojis. There's some amazing ones like Bears with Tails and Cinnamon Berry and Morty D'Souza and Stunned to a News. All these are unique emojis you can use as members. You get a little badge as well alongside your name, and in green you will see it pop up in the chat. Members have priority on the chats, like their comments come up first. So if that's something that you want to join, also you always have a permanent discount to the merch store. You can hit join by clicking on the button below, above me, or use the URL that's in the channel description or the video description, and hit there. Less than a cup of coffee, and you are in for the month. And hopefully you like it and enjoy it and want to keep doing it. But it was so cool to do it on Monday Me and Aiden had such a good time, and I knew it was going to be fun. I didn't realize how cool it was going to be, and it was even better than I thought, so thank you. Also, I want to let you guys know that the merch store is flying. You guys have been awesome. We have T-shirt with all the old crew, Mraz, Pete the Body, Bogues, with the new crew, Babs and Lou and Britt, Katie Lindahl, Ada the Marquette Marvel. Everybody is on this T-shirt, like the Brady Bunch, smashing multiple families together. It says "Feeling good and doing well." It's been our best seller. It's so good. It makes me smile every time I see their cartoons. That's available right now. Also, the Rose of the Cat, Be Good and Be Good to One Another. That T-shirt's really doing well. We have the old school mothership, just me with the mothership at the controls, with the lightning bolts, the zaps. That's also fantastic. And we also have the Forever Oakland T-shirt, which we had a lot of A's fans that purchased that last couple of weeks, which is really cool. They all come in tank tops. They all come in women's sizes. They all come in youth sizes. So you can pick out whatever you want. Go to watchdastore.com. So this is Watch DA Live, watchdastore.com. Check it out. And anything you might want, it'll be in your size, your cut, tanks, hoodies, T-shirts, all the good stuff. This week, we unveiled the Q&DA with Babito Garcia. Babito is a legend. He is the original sneakerhead. If you are into collecting sneakers, basketball sneakers, he's the godfather of this. He wrote the book, Hey, Where'd You Get Those?, which is like the Bible of sneaker collecting. It basically goes from 1960 through 1987. Every single basketball sneaker you could buy, he's got pictures and blurbs on it. He's unbelievable. And he hosted the show on ESPN2 about sneaker culture with athletes and celebrities. He has written multiple books. He hosted one of the most impactful, powerful hip-hop shows of all time that broke many, many hip-hop stars, that unveiled them basically to the world, like Jay-Z and Biggie and Nas. This guy is just an incredible legend in so many ways. He has a new book out, so I had him drop by Q&DA, which is a long-form conversation, and I wanted to play a snippet of this for you because he was so generous with his time, and he was so cool to talk to, and I really wanted to share this because the full interview is available right now. Let's check out some from Babito Garcia this week. There is a nostalgia, too, for young kids now that grew up in a completely social media age. Mm-hmm. You see them reflecting back on like pre-cell phones or analog video or pre-4K, and they yearn for some of that, right? They think us old guys are actually cool because we went through some of that stuff that they never had a chance to do.
Yeah. Pre-4K, I've never even heard anybody.
That's right.
Pre-seeing someone's pimple,
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, your new book is really cool because it has so much of the visual style of where'd you get those, and a lot of that is your photography, and it's documenting basketball in New York City and how the Big Apple and the five boroughs really inform modern basketball culture, and you lived it through all of your pickup games. It's amazing. And you lived it personally through pickup, through culture, through your hip hop radio show, named by sources the greatest hip hop radio show of all time, breaking really influential artists, and seeing this kind of connection through all of it. And there is a resistance where I stand on the sports radio side of things and sports media, and I see old basketball players, retired basketball players, resisting the new game and the new athlete, the new player. And I'm wondering if you can put your finger on what that is, because it doesn't really happen in other sports. We don't watch the NFL, and halftime at the Super Bowl is a bunch of guys griping about pass interference rules. In the NBA, though, there is a resistance to the new. And I'm wondering, what do you think that is?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting phenomenon, right? And I do think that has actually there's a through line, there's consistency. In the 70s and 80s, there were players who were from the 50s and 60s who were being critical of the new game in the 70s and 80s, both in the playground as well as in the pros, right? This is not relegated just to professional sports. And then in the 90s and 2000s, the same thing happened, and in the 2000s to present, it's the game continues to evolve, and we can accept it or we can criticize it. I think being critical is generally a good thing, right? But I think being negative is not, right? Like positive criticism, saying, hey, like, there's no hand checking anymore. I would have dropped 50 a game if that didn't exist in my era. That's someone perhaps being negative because the hand checking stopped, and that's just what it is. That was a rules change that was decided by, the powers that be that oversee the game and officiating. Rules change for a reason. They're generally by consensus to improve the overall experience for both players and for fans. There's players who could say, I played college basketball when there was no 3-point line. I think it was 1986 or 87 when it became a thing. And, I think I might have had more points, more value to teams because I was a long distance shooter from the beginning. Same thing in high school. I didn't have a high 3-point. So I'm going to be negative and be like, these guys averaging 20 points a game or it can be like, I can celebrate it. Like, that was a great rule change. And that's amazing that someone can get extra points for shooting from so far away. So I think, there's value to both the old timers and the retired players, giving foundation for people to understand where this game came from. And for those younger to learn from that, in the playground realm, there's been a tremendous amount of evolution for decades over, right? And we don't generally see that in broad spectrum until decades later. The transition of what happens on the playground to the pros is a lot quicker now because of social media and the increased documentation of what my community globally is doing out in the park, right? And so we see a quicker transition. So like, for example, 1v1 is like a big deal for content creators on YouTube, Instagram, etc., TikTok. They literally can show up at a park, 300 people can show up to watch, and some of them are like completely feeding their family off of playing one-on-one basketball. It's amazing. It's amazing. They're out of the context of the NCAA, the NBA, AAU. This is straight like park, right? So what does the WNBA do? I'm sorry, not the WNBA, Unrivaled. They see that 1v1 is like a big deal, and in their debut season, they do a 1v1 tournament with the top players in the league, which I thought was brilliant because they are paying attention to what's going on the asphalt. And we've seen that in the NBA, certain fancy moves, isolation. If you look at the 80s Celtics, who were like phenomenally successful, they played a beautiful game, but there wasn't much ISO. There wasn't a ball handler dribbling 15 times before he got a shot off in a 24-second time clock. So the game has evolved, right? And the teams that still play like the Celtics of the 80s are still highly successful. It's a team concept. It's a team game. But the highlights for ESPN and all the outlets and media and social, they're not showing the 5 passes, pick and roll to the bucket. They're showing the James Hardens, Kyrie Irvings, Stephen Curry's 10 dribbles, 12 dribbles, Trae Young to get the shot off. But that comes from the park. that isolation, that over dribbling, whether you like it or not, that comes from the park. That didn't come from coaches. That came from in the absence of coaches. And so, we constantly see the game evolve, and I embrace it all. I love basketball. I played organized and I played disorganized. I feel blessed to have had my feet in both worlds, and and express that globally. I've traveled with the
I began by asking Babito about collecting and how there's a part of me that feels a little sad because I grew up before the internet. The internet we had in my house when I was in high school, but I didn't really use it much. I really started using it in college in '97. But today, if you want to collect something, you just search the internet and find the thing that you want. And I remember it. The essence of collecting was, well, you had to go on a treasure hunt. And the treasure hunt was you physically have to go find clues to go find the thing that you want. So I talked to him about that, and that was pretty cool. And I just highlighted the comment from Moist Pork because I think that there's a lot of things from the Babito interview that are applicable to a lot of different interests. We hit on collecting. We hit on the essence of basketball. We hit on sneaker culture. We hit on a little bit of everything. So I think it was certainly really exciting for me. And one of the things that Q&DA allows me to do is do a long-form interview in a subject that we wouldn't normally tackle on the air, on the radio. So I'm glad that you're enjoying them. I certainly encourage you to watch them all. You can use them as podcasts. Just pop them on your earbuds or in the car or something. You could just pop on YouTube, hit play. You don't have to look at it and just listen to the audio of it and use it as if you're going to the gym, if you're running, if you're working out, if you're cutting the lawn, if you just want to kind of like bury your mind in something and take it off and just kind of use it as a podcast. I definitely encourage it. All of them are about a half hour. So we got about 6 or 7 up there, and they all do include members-only content as well, which is my deep dive after the interview. I'm going to do the one on Babito tomorrow. So that'll be up tomorrow, the raw feed series as well. I wanted to get to comments here. And so Aiden, if you want to fire a few at me, and then I'm going to go through a few that I also like as well. So we'll do a few beam ups here. What do we got, Mr. Marquette Marvel? Happy July 13th to you.
Happy July 13th to you as well. Yes, I already got asked from somebody what the shirt is for tonight. It's not a Los Angeles Kings shirt. It's actually a Nas shirt because my man Babito basically found Nas in the underground. So
wow,
had to go support.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool
This is
t-shirt.
the King's Disease, 3-time champion. I got into Nas's later stuff and then went back to the It Was Writtens and the Illmatics. And speaking of my musical prowess, Randy asks, am I playing that piano off the camera at the end of each interview? Yes. I picked that up from Nas as a producer.
Nice.
Cigar City Capo, I think, actually has the best comparison for Babito, which Stretch and Babito was the Mike and the Mad Dog of hip hop. It was kind of the pioneering show back in the late 80s and early 90s. And so I wanted to highlight that as a
good one,
as a highlight.
Yeah.
Let's go to the other side of the spectrum of maybe one of the weirder comments that I've seen, but it's worth a mention. You mentioned on the Ask DA Live that we did earlier in the week that you did some hair talk. And Drunkle Sam wants to know if it's for sale. He said, I would buy some of that DA hair for future use. So I'm just going to put that out there and see what you want to do with that.
Some locks for love for Drunkle Sam. Next time I just got my hair cut on Wednesday. And I have rarely had a less, it's the most anxiety-ridden haircut I've ever had because I went to get the haircut and AJ went first. And so I needed help because once I got my haircut, he was just going to be solo. He was not going to sit in my lap as I got my haircut. So Papa Mendo came to the salon Papa Mendo's retired, so he's got some time in his hands. So he comes over. AJ sits in his lap for his haircut, and then I got to get my haircut, and they leave the salon, and I'm like, what? So my haircut takes maybe a half hour, 40 minutes or something like that. And the whole time I'm like, what are they doing? Where are they? Are they okay? What is my dad doing? Because, you're in a strip mall parking lot. What are you guys doing out there for a half hour? I can't see you. I don't know. This is bad. I don't know what they did. I didn't ask. I walked out at one point with my apron still on, that thing on around me, like, hey, what are you guys doing? They were sitting in my dad's car. I think, my AJ's in his big time car mode right now. He's a little over 2, so he loves cars. So they were watching cars drive by, and my dad was like quizzing him on what year and make and model they were. Unbelievable. So I think they were okay. It was really hot. They were in the air conditioning. That was helpful. I knew that, but I'm just like, can you get me out of this chair? I gotta go. My son is out there with my dad, and I don't know what the hell is going on right now.
So hopefully that answers your question, Mr. Sam. Let's keep it in the Hudson Valley with Delta 9 Brian, who wants to know more about your first pitch, specifically the part of how do you work on mechanics and not throw. I'm just envisioning you in the backyard with a baseball in your hand, just aiming it right at the wall, but not actually releasing the ball.
It's been like in the 90s every day. And when I'm not working and I'm not watching AJ, I try to do stuff around the house. And so it's mowing, it's weeding, it's mulching, it's hedge trimming, it's all that stuff. It's cleaning the garage. It's, And I finally just was like, I can't do this anymore. I hit a wall last week, and I was like, I'm dead tired. Then I got to watch AJ until the Bourbon Bell comes home, and it's just like, it's 95 degrees. I'm like dying. So I called up the landscape company. I was like, they usually do some mowing along the driveway where I can't get it with the zero turn. And I was like, can you come trim some of the shrubbery, bushes, clear it out, remulch a little bit? Like, it looks terrible. They're like, yeah, sure. We can come next week. Then they called me in the morning and they said, hey, are you around? We just had a cancellation. We can come today. I said, yes, come. So I had to wait at the house with them until they were wrapped up. And then we were going to go to the Renegades game at night. So I had like a 45 to 60 minute window to jump in my parents' pool. They live like 15 minutes away. And I was like, I need the pool. I'm so hot. It's so gross. I need to jump in. So I jumped to the pool, and I was working on mechanics in the pool. And so I was citing, like specifying a dot on like, something, a tree or something beyond where I thought was like 60 feet or so, 50 feet. And I was going through the mechanics like, okay, turn the shoulder. Where do I step? Do I open up my shoulders? Do I point my shoulder? Like, because, if you haven't played catch in a long time, you just think you throw it and like, it'll get there. But what happens if you only have one throw? That was the problem. If you gave me 10 throws, yeah, I'm sure I could get it done. But if one throw and I haven't thrown 60 feet in, when's the last time I threw 60 feet? I'm like, I don't want to really blow this. Now, I didn't know I was going with 3 or 4 other kids. So that I really shouldn't have stressed out about it because they were like rolling it. So how bad could it have been? I could have just lollipopped it. But so I was doing mechanics in the pool. Mechanics step and throw, step and throw, step and throw. Where's the arm angle? Where's the shoulder angle? And I thought that I got it down pretty good. So then when I came home, the Bourbon Bell says, well, did you practice? Because I brought my glove to my dad's house. And I was like, yeah, maybe I'll play catch with my dad. But he didn't have a glove. So I said, no, I didn't. I said, I worked on the mechanics in the pool, though. And she's like, oh, my God. She's like, I'm going to use that one. I go, what? She goes, yeah, when you don't do something, I'm just going to say, I worked on the mechanics. I worked on the mechanics of emptying the dishwasher. I said, very funny. I really did. I worked on the mechanics and paid off. The throw was pretty good. It was like, that wasn't a strike. It might have been a strike. You were calling the inside corner a strike. It was fine.
Good evening and hello to the Bourbon Bell, because this is going to be a plug for the Ask DA Live. You got some good insight into the Bourbon Bell and DA's relationship as well. And also, just in the course of tonight's show, we have Did You Practice? And then also, what was the other one? Oh my gosh, I'm totally blanking on it. But just great insight.
Yeah, well, the first one is she said, are you going to practice? And I was like,
Oh yeah, have you practiced yet?
Yeah, have you practiced yet? And then I got terrified. And then when I came back from my parents' house at the pool, she goes, well, did you practice? Did you throw over there? And I said, oh, I worked on my mechanics.
I know what it was. I know what the other one was.
Oh.
After the SDA Live, going upstairs. Oh, how was the SDA Live?
Oh, yeah.
By the way, that was after a glass of bourbon. And it sounds like she's half therapist as well. So I'm glad for your sake that you have that support.
She's not a natural talker, and I want to talk about everything. Deep dive. I really like the deep dive. So when I have to do it with when I can do it with somebody else, she appreciates that. She gets the night off. So yeah, when I came upstairs, she goes, "It sounded like you really needed that," because she was watching the live stream. Yeah, that was very funny. But yeah, and I had maybe 2 glasses of bourbon during the SDA anything. So had a good night last Monday. That was a good Monday night.
And then to just complete the family, we had a Rosie the Cat live sighting as well.
That's
so
right.
Tune in for that.
That's right.
Yeah,
go ahead.
Speaking of spread the love, I got 2 quick shout outs. First of all, Central PA Foul sharing the stream on X. Thank you for that. And more importantly, a new member of the Jedi Council. Yes, that Andrew Kaplan.
Yeah, you see this Cap, who was the Wizard of Watch D.A. for years when I was on CBS, is now a member of the channel. How about that? And this is why he's so amazing. When I put up the thumbnail for the video of the private chat last week, I just had a question. I had like me with like a quizzical look, like, SDA anything. And he goes, when you went into your hair thing, you should really make that the thumbnail, like crazy revelation about DA's hair. And he said, and you should make yourself bald on the thumbnail. And I was like, see, that's the Wizard of Watch DA. Always looking for shock value on the thumbnail.
Well, is that false advertising?
Maybe a little bit, but that doesn't matter. Not in internet land to Wizard of Watch DA. So I went into our Photoshop type thing that we do the thumbnails on, and I couldn't get it to work right to where I got bald. So instead, I did myself with dreads and like a high top fade like Kid and Play. So that's the thumbnail that you see. So then Cap texted me, he's like, that's amazing, but let me try. And then he did me with like long, crazy, like Ozzy Osbourne hair. Is so insane. So I might post that because it's just so ridiculous at some point on social media in the coming days, because his version of the thumbnail was even crazier than my version, which I thought was pretty crazy. But yes, Cap is aboard, so we love that.
I cut you off, but did you want to get to a couple here as well?
Yeah, let me do a couple here before we get out of here. Delta 9 Brian says, how do you work on mechanics and not throw? Well, I described in the pool. It was just, working on the snap.
That's covered.
Chris says, you need the mothership in a Bruins theme. Now, Chris is an old school listener of mine when I was on 98.5 The Sports Hub in Boston, which is a pretty cool idea. I like thematic designs. And if you look at the A's design, Forever Oakland, it has that old A's script, the classic A's script in the green and the gold. So that's a good idea. And we might have to start branching into doing DA show shirts with some team themes, ones that I'm kind of connected to. And the Bruins is a good one because I was their post-game host for all the years I was at 98.5, 4 years, I think 5 hockey seasons. And one of them being the Stanley Cup winning year of 2011. So that would be a pretty cool one. Moist Pork does not wear T-shirts. He only wears collared shirts. And so he says, day number 4 of asking for a DA show polo shirt. Obviously, Moist, I'm taking that into consideration. We have to run it by Last Dive Bar peeps and see what works with our apparel partners. But if we can do one, I'll try to do one for you because I do want Moist to be able to have something he can wear. He does have a Hall of Fame satin gold jacket, so that's pretty special. And I know that he's rocking it all over Baltimore, but I've heard the pleas, and I will consider it at some point in time, certainly. Delta 9 Brian, didn't you do a Nomad episode on that stadium a few years back? That's right. That was actually the first ever episode of Nomad. I went back to that minor league baseball stadium and I ate 2 crazy burgers. One was on a pretzel bun, but it had it was crazy. But the one that was really crazy was a chicken and waffle burger. And the buns were waffles, and there was a fried piece of chicken in the middle of it. And I ate that as well. And that was the first ever episode of Nomad, my sports travel series. So that's on this channel. If you simply search DA Nomad or my name in Nomad or my name in, I guess, Hudson Valley Renegades probably, you'll find it pretty easily. But it is the first ever episode of Nomad. Great memory by Delta 9 Brian. And speaking of, gotta love DA being lumped in with the children when throwing the first pitch. That's right. That's who basically I was throwing against. And I thought I brought the heat compared to the 7-year-old that was crying because his mom was not still out of the mound with him. Like,
that would make me 10 times more nervous. Doing it with the 2 children flanked on either side, that almost deserves more credit.
You'll see me in the video like turn back and applaud because I was surrounded by 7-year-olds or 9-year-olds or whatever, and I was trying to like encourage them all to like do their best because one was crying. It was a lot. B Squared, who is an old school D-alien from Kansas City, says Greg Robinson worked that same magic on the Chiefs defense. That's right. Unbelievably, Greg Robinson was the defensive coordinator of the 97 and 98 Broncos who went back-to-back and won Super Bowls, and then took over the defense in Kansas City, and it was the worst defense in football, then took over the team in Syracuse, and they had the worst defense in all of the country. So go figure. Cigar City Capo says, this is facts, DA. I've seen the marketing and branding nerds in action. So he's talking about when I said these marketing companies are stealing money. It's a total hoax. They keep telling leagues and teams you need to rebrand. That's how you'll sell more money. That's what the kids want. And meantime, the moment any of these franchises go back to their old jerseys, everyone loves them. And yeah, you're going to get a pop naturally by changing jerseys. But if you want to make an alternate jersey, that's one thing. Like the City Connect jerseys, I hate, but I understand the reason. But don't make your primary jerseys the garbage nerd jerseys, which is what the marketing companies keep telling everybody to do. Next up is Craig, who says, DA, how do you really feel about jerseys? I think we all know about that. Wallace tweets, wow, dweebs. Haven't heard that word in a long time. You can tell I grew up in elementary school in the 80s. And so dweeb, dork, nerd, geek, spaz. These are all, the terms of endearment.
Here's a satellite question on this because my friends and I talk about this often. What is the most demeaning term for a fellow male? If I were to call you, and the most popular answers are sport, pal, buddy, chief, speaking of the Chiefs, dweeb's a good one. I like dingbat a lot.
Dingbat.
Is there another nominee here that I'm missing? I think those are the hallmarks.
Well, pal is very dismissive. Sport is, so you're looking to go because you're calling a guy like, oh, okay, you think you're tough sport. But I think chief is the worst because chief is, you are in a demeaning way putting that guy on a fake pedestal. Chief, what do you think you got, chief? Or what do you like? You were already saying you are so arrogant you think you're the chief, and you're so not. I think if you call now, buddy is not good. That's what Aaron Rodgers called Mraz. Get away from me, buddy. But chief, I think, is the toughest. Although sport is probably a close second because sport is like the kids that were throwing first pitch next to me.
I think pal is a runaway, and I'll actually stick up for buddy because my dad called me buddy a lot growing up. Like in our family, that was just kind of like the nickname.
Okay.
So I say, and like dogs on the street, especially male dogs, like, hey buddy, and okay. I missed one. Boss. That's second place for me as the worst. Boss. I'll get it more often than I'd like to admit at the bar. Like, oh, excuse me, boss. Or that's code for get out of my effing way. So that's a real demeaning one. So that's second place for me.
That's a good one. The boss is a good one. B Squared says the MLB All-Star Game's like a booty call. Performative, some energy, but not deeply meaningful. That's just about the most perfect way to put it, and that's why I think The Miz deserves in. It's largely performative, not deeply meaningful. And finally, Moist, the All-Star Game needs to go back to everyone wearing their team uniforms. Guess what, Moist? You got your wish. Yes, I don't know if it's this year, but in future years, and it might be Tuesday, they're wearing their own team jerseys. So you got to love it. No more of those garbage jerseys that everybody wore the same team. Always bad. Always terrible. Let's get to your sports zen of the night, shall we? And there was a passing this week. Former St. Louis and Phoenix Cardinals offensive lineman passed away. And so I wanted to pop up a photo of this because I thought, the moments that I love was those years of guys that built the league before money became monstrous. Lewis Sharp passed away. He was a left tackle for the Cardinals and a 3-time Pro Bowler. He played for St. Louis 82 to 87, and then they moved to Arizona 88 to 94. So he played 12 years. And he was a Pro Bowler in 87, 88, and 89. And look at this photo. Is that not war? I mean, that's him and Dexter Manley. I believe that is after the Cardinals moved to Phoenix because I think that that's a grass turf. And they played on artificial turf in St. Louis. And Dexter Manley, you can tell because Washington's wearing the Reds that they are more than likely on the road. At home is when they wore the whites. The only time they wore the Reds usually was when they went on the road and the home team wore white. And so I'm guessing this was Phoenix Cardinals. Also, all the crowd is wearing white, so it doesn't look like it's a home Washington crowd. I don't think that's RFK. So my guess is this is probably 87, 88, something like that, 87, 88, 89, when Manley was still in his glory days. But it's just those decades, those generations were war. And they took their toll on those guys. And they built the league before money became monstrous. And I just have an undying respect and appreciation for that generation. And Sharp was one of those guys. So unheralded because he played for a team that didn't win anything. And he played a position that nobody cares about. But I just thought it's worth remembering him and that generation of players because, man, oh, man, they put the league on their back and built it. And they deserve all the credit for what it is today. A little reminder to make sure you drop by lastdivebar.com as well. They do our merch store, and they have all this cool Oakland A's gear. You know what's going on with the A's, so we love them around here. We support the A's. We hate what's happening with them relocating, but the merch that Last Dive Bar has is so cool. If you use our code Mothership, you get 15% off your order, 15% off, which basically is going to knock off your tax and shipping, which is awesome. So, boom, use code Mothership. Get 15% off your order by going to lastdivebar.com. They've got shot glasses, they got pint glasses, they got sweatshirts, they got T-shirts, they got everything. So really great guys. They've supported us since day one here on the show. We want to support them as well. Lastdivebar.com. They have the goods. Before we get out of here, we want to do a Little Mo Laugh of the Day. And Little Mo Laugh of the Day comes to us courtesy of who else? Charles Barkley, who's always making us laugh. Barkley played in Tahoe this week at the Century Championship, and it's always great with celebs and with athletes, etc. So here is a little Barkley who actually holed out, and you will hear him react to such.
Charles, you're a confident guy by nature, but was there
golf?
Was there a sense of confidence though coming into today to be, playing as well as you are today?
Yeah, I thought I would play well. I didn't think I'd play this well. What I'm really trying to work on is tempo. Every time I try to hit the ball hard, bad stuff happened. So I told myself the last couple of weeks, man, you're a big old fat dude. Just make a pass that it's going to go. That's what I tell myself, Smile. I said, you're a big old fat dude. If you just make a nice pass at it, with that big ass you got, the ball's going to go off the club. So I'm really just concentrating, honestly, on tempo.
Oh, wow. Look at that. It went in. All right. You got to love it. And Barkley saying, I'm just a fat guy, so I'm working on tempo. Perfect. Right? Barkley is so great in that way. So that's freaking awesome. Also, you guys are weighing in on the worst thing to be called, which I love. And Boss, Buddy, Cigar City Capo brings in Haas. That's a good one. You never want to be called Haas because that feels like it's a fat guy slam. Psych Mamter, big guy. Big guy's very, very dismissive. Very dismissive. And Cigar City Capo also adds fella. Yeah, fella's never a good one. And also, when the ladies say fella, also not that great as well. So, pretty amazing. That's going to do it for us this evening here on the show. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We have a new member of the family as well. Jack Knight has joined us. Jack is going to be attending Syracuse in the fall and reached out to me to get some experience under his belt before he attends college and tries to go after a career in broadcasting. I said, you got it, big guy. Let's do this. And let me take you under my wing. Let me introduce you to the Marquette Marvel, Aiden Hatton. Let's introduce you to the world of the D-Aliens, and away we go. And so he's shadowing today. He's going to run the show next week because Aiden is off next Sunday for Watch D.A. Live, so you'll get introduced to Jack next week when he helps run the show, which should be a lot of fun. So we welcome him into the fold as well. Thanks to all the D-Aliens. Like I said, we've got a Q&A coming up, deep dive about Babito, the Raw Feed series. So members, look for that coming up tomorrow and or Tuesday, okay? I will see you tomorrow morning on Sirius XM, Mad Dog Sports Radio, Channel 82. Thank you, everybody. Love you much. Have a great rest of your Sunday. I'll see you in the morning on Sirius XM. Thanks to Aiden Hatton, the Marquette Marvel. I am D.A. and saying, as always, be good and be good to one another. The mothership disconnects.